Welcome to Sister Talk TV show. I'm Dietra, Kelsey. More and more Black people are leaving the United States and living abroad. What is propelling this migration? Today, I am talking to Black women who decided to leave America and settle somewhere else. My first guest is Dr. Cheryl Dossett. Hails from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York. She's an international educator, education consultant, and business coach. She has served as the former president of the New York Alliance of Black School Educators in New York City while carrying out her duties as the special assistant to the Associate Commissioner of Education for School Improvement Services for the New York State Education Department in Brooklyn. She has received numerous education awards and recognitions from people like Senator John L. Sampson, an education award by New York State Assembly Hakeem Jeffries, education citation by the Honorable Marty Markowitz, Brooklyn Borough President, New York City. She has received numerous awards and also, again, recognition from the National Association of Negro Women and Professional Women, just to name a few. She's done a lot. Also, she's the executive producer of Overseas Game Changers documentary, and also the author of Bed-Stuy to Beijing, Unapologetically Black in China. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for gracing the virtual stage of Sister Talk TV show. Dr. Dossett, why did you decide to leave America?
First of all, let me just thank you and welcome your audience for tuning in today, Dietra. This is a very important opportunity to share some of the reasons which prompted my leaving. But just as a point of clarification, the biographical information you read is a long time ago. This was in 2008 to 2011 when I was with the New York State Education Department as the special assistant to the former Associate Commissioner of Education, Dr. Sheila Trainum. So that was a wonderful segue into living a very impactful life filled with purpose. But why did I go? With all that being said, all that under my belt, why was that enough or wasn't enough to keep me in America? Well, it had nothing to do with that. It had more to do with the hunger and the thirst that I had for something more, to do something different, to dare to be different. And so from 2011 to 2020, actually, I lived in China. And what really prompted the move was the move. I wanted something different. And honestly, I got fired. So what do? When Dr. Trainum retired, I was let go. There was no other space for me or need for me in that capacity. So rather than say, woe is me, say, wow, it's me. Wow, not a woe became a wow. And I knew that I've been blessed to carry on a mission. But I knew also that living abroad was very important because I had origins born overseas in Germany, Heidelberg, Germany. My parents were in the military. And I had already begun to travel internationally by myself, and I felt very comfortable on foreign soil. You could almost say that was my calling. Education is my calling, and traveling alone is my calling.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm curious to know what were you fired from?
And it claimed to do probably with excess. There was just no more need for me. There was just not a need for me. Mm-hmm. Now, you have to understand, hearing that message over and over again, there's not a need, because I was fired from every job. So it was like, okay, so I was being prompted and compelled to move because they get to a certain point, they were like, well, I'm sorry, thank you for your services, we don't need you. And I just got tired of that. But actually, it was pulling me towards my purpose and my calling as an educator. But at the time, I didn't see it, I resisted. So sometimes we miss our blessing when we resist.
Well,
so
why,
I ended up
why China though?
Why not?
Greetings, my name is Cheryl Dossett and this is My Truth. I come to you today to share my vision for creating a new initiative which embraces the unique talents, strengths, and abilities of a segment of the population which is often overlooked. What I'm referring to are members of the African American or Black community in China.
There's no reason why not. I'm fascinated. Now I could use this example and say, well, my mother lives in Chinatown in Flushing. No. Or I've always loved Chinese food. No. I was drawn to the unknown. I'm drawn to challenge. And I wanted to get as far away from people anyway that I knew, because I was ashamed that I was part. So I wanted to completely reinvent myself. I wanted to start, because I'm used to being a winner, walking like a winner, thinking, and I would dare let anyone tell me that it's over. How dare someone tell me that it's my end game? I dare somebody say, that's your end game. I had to say that is because right before that, I had suffered a stroke. And I was able to heal from a stroke and skin cancer. And I knew that because I don't lose and I can't lose, that I might as well go somewhere else and to understand what it's like to be so different, but also to learn about alternative Chinese medicine. But that wasn't even the reason. I always wanted to teach at a university. So why teach a university in China? So I don't really have a clear reason. If you ask me, I knew that I was prepared for this. I knew that my journey was never going to be straight, and I knew that I would survive. And so I ended up in China. Let's get to the deep of it. Why? Because number one, I never felt a sense of connectedness in America. I had friends, but not deep friends. So I was in search of a tribe, and I found my tribe in China. I'm so happy. You have no idea.
When you say that you never found a connection in America,
No.
What do you mean by that?
I didn't have close family relations. I wasn't close to my family. The friends that I had, and let me give a shout out to PS 327 in Brownsville, was the first school that I taught. That was the first time that actually people embraced me. In fact, the principal, Dr. Macbeth, was my mentor, and God bless her. She was the one that helped me form my understanding and educational philosophy that all children can learn, regardless of their beginnings, they had any deficits. And then I know that the teachers were very close. And I felt a connection at that point. So I knew wherever I was going to go, I was going to still teach, because it has proven to be true. Teachers are a great tribe to be a part of.
I want to ask you this. Around the world, Black people, particularly African Americans, are perceived as just not good people. How was your welcoming? What type of welcoming did you receive from China? Because we've heard some not so great things about the citizens of China when it comes to Black folk.
I wish I could share my video, because so far from the truth. Let me just say this. Number one, as an educator, educators are revered in China. And I knew I went in as a teacher, but most importantly, I went in as a professor in a STEM program, which was unheard of. How this Black woman can come in teaching PhD level. My students were from Africa. My students were from the Philippines. My students were from India. And I was well received. In fact, I got so used to that treatment, I became somewhat arrogant in the process. And then I had a rude awakening. And the rude awakening was when I became ill. And my blood pressure shot up to 276 over 176. And it was my Chinese student and assistant who bathed me with a sponge bath and would hold me against her chest until I got better. And she washed my feet and she would rub my back. And then one day, all the students would come by me and they circled around me and they said, "Teacher, please don't die."
You know, that's different. I never heard anything like that. I do know that the Asian community love our culture, but you know, you hear so much about from the media and all that they really don't care too much about Black people, especially you know, let's face it, when they get over here. But that's something refreshing to hear from you, you know.
But also, let me also say there is a bit of a caveat. You have to understand, I came in as a professional and as an educator. It holds a different level of esteem if I came in as a migrant worker from Africa. But this is not a negative commentary. It's just the indigenous Africans who go to China seeking a better life, and they come through the area of trading, working in the markets and buying goods and shipping them. They are not treated well in general, as a general rule. So we hear about Blacks in China, we hear about that story, but that's only one part of the story. This is why my vision, my brand, Overseas Game Changers, the original OGs are so important, because it brings light to the fact it depends how you land. You can land soft or you can land hard. I was fortunate because of my passport and my education and experience, I landed soft. Plus, which you did not mention, I'm also an ambassador at large. So because I was coming in as an ambassador at large, there was a different, and I actually migrated to that designation years later, treated very differently, access to places that most people don't have access to, sought after for consulting gigs and jobs, help establish school programs. That is because of my professional designation. Until they got to know me, then they knew me as a person, not as a persona. All right, so let me say that, very important. And then also, while I was in China, I got to preach, because I'm also a minister. So I got to preach in the churches where you can't preach, you can't really serve God in China, but we were able to serve God in China. And I got to preach in churches, Black churches in China that most people don't know that exist in China, but I was asked to preach at some Black churches.
So what are the challenges that you had to overcome living abroad, particularly?
Oh my God, it depends on where you live. So I lived in large cities and smaller cities. So I will tell you a story of what happened to me in a smaller city, and they got me out of that city. This was a town that one of my teaching tours, very small town, 90% of the population did not speak English. So I was asked to go there and teach a course on international business. Well, one day I was on the bus. I had slipped and fallen out of the bus. I misstepped and slipped down 3 steps. I had on a skirt. My skirt went up in the back of my head so you can see everything. When they say, let there be light, you can see all of it, okay? So everything was showing, but no one helped me get up. As I stood to get up, somebody took their leg and pushed me back down. As I stood to get up again, they pushed me back down. I was in tears. But see, students in China, the young population really has been a blessing in my life. And so I remember getting my phone. My phone was outstanding. It was extended out. And I got my phone and I called my student. I said, please come get me. This is teacher. And because they started mocking me. The older citizens started mocking me, calling me very derogatory names in Chinese. That was one reason that has been a barrier for me learning Chinese, because I didn't want to know what they were saying, which was negative connotation. So anyway, I remember trying to get up, and my students came and they rescued me from this mob. So that was negative. Another reason, some of the challenges was because I didn't speak the language. One time I slipped and fell in the bathroom and I had to crawl to get in, and I was crawling to my living room. And I lived on the second floor of this beautiful garden apartment, gated community. I thought I had made it then. I thought I was accepted, but I couldn't call anyone. I remember my student who did not understand English. I said to him, please come and get me. I hit my head. Because of the language barrier, he didn't understand me. So he went to the school and told them, the teacher is dead. The teacher is dead. So I remember sitting in my living room on the second floor and my eyes were closed and I was leaning back in the chair, and then they would climb through the second floor window, my patio. As they climbed through, I was at the left and I looked my head to the right. They thought they saw a ghost and they all started screaming, oh my God, oh my God. But those were the instances in my life that also helped strengthen me to learn how to not make judgments, that not all Chinese people do not like Blacks. That's really a misnomer. That there are some challenges when you live in a small community in China that don't have access or exposure to people from abroad. But when you work in the academic community, living on a campus in a gated, its own enclave, the experience is different, well received, warm. It's such a big contrast, it's almost scary. It can almost cause what you call PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome disorder, because I experienced both. I experienced bitter rejection and I experienced overwhelming, compassionate love that I can never, never forget.
Well, tell us about your documentary, The Game Changer. I know you mentioned it earlier, but what is that really about?
Well, Overseas Game Changers is the brainchild, the outgrowth of my experience. Number one, as going to China as an older or seasoned educator, because in general, you might meet someone within ages of 20 to 30. So because let me just tell the truth, I was in my 50s when I arrived in China, which was unheard of.
Get out of here. You don't look it. You don't.
Well, I'm 61.
No.
Okay. And so because of that journey, I had insight. I was like the aunt, the advisor, the counselor. And I started talking to people about preparing yourself for when you leave and how to find your purpose. And so the documentary chronicles 14 other African-American, other individuals from the African diaspora of their journey to China and what prompted their move and what were some of the challenges and forming relationships with the indigenous population. So my tag name is, when I introduce myself, my name is Dr. Dossett. I'm the original OG, Overseas Game Changer, because I was not only there for teaching, I was there to impact the business community. I was there to impact education. And so I was a game changer, especially being one of the first African Americans to teach in the PhD program for 5 years, which was unheard of. And then opened the way for 5 other African Americans to take my spot when I left, meaning opened up 5 opportunities for them to be taken seriously to teach at a university. So Overseas Game Changer is the outgrowth of my book, Unapologetically Black, where wherever I'm sent to make a difference. And so not only is it a documentary, I'll be launching a television show, a talk show discussing us, who we are, starting June 1. And may I make a plug, if you don't mind?
Oh, no, that's what
Preach the Word Network. Yes. Preach. I'm the original OG Overseas Game Changer on Preach the Word Network, which talks about power, inspiration, and healing on foreign soil.
Briefly, we only have a couple of minutes left, but briefly, before you moved overseas and lived there, you went through a lot of changes within our community, within America. Can you briefly tell us that in maybe 30 or 40 seconds, if you can do that?
Believe it or not, it's going to sound kind of naive. Whatever changes I went through prepared me for China. So it was bittersweet. And those changes of being fired from every job, so be it. But I've learned to recreate my life. I've learned to have passion. I've learned to also have purpose, and now help others achieve purpose by starting my coaching business, which is entitled Teachers Make the Best Bosses. Oh, okay. Yes.
Tell us how one can get in contact with you.
Facebook by the name itself, by my name, on LinkedIn by my name is always easy to find me. Those are the 2 easiest ways, but also the Breakthrough Coach 2020 at gmail.com. I am the Breakthrough Coach. I can guarantee wherever you're going through, I can get you back to where you need to be.
And I believe that I believe it. I really do. I have to end this that you are happy, you can breathe. And
I'm in Jamaica now, still living overseas in Jamaica.
Yeah, you're in Jamaica, so you're really a nomad. You're just everywhere where the spirit moves you. I just want to say thank you for gracing the virtual stage, Sister Talk TV show, and sharing your experience. And I'm quite sure it has helped others to make the decision during this quarantine pandemic. Okay, thank you so much. Helona, I was reading your bio and I was looking at your resume and all that. And your website, I want you to tell us what exactly that you do. I know that you are a writer, a freelance writer, a ghost writer, and all that, and you write for corporations. Right now you're living in Rwanda, which yeah, a lot of people mistakenly say is South Africa, but it's really East Africa. Okay, could you just give us a little bit information about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I work as a corporate freelance writer. And what that really means is I write marketing materials for tech companies. I've been doing that for about 5 years. And I left the United States in, July of 2018. I went to Southeast Asia first, so I was there for, I guess, a little over 2 years. And then I moved to Rwanda in November of 2020. So during the pandemic, right in the middle of the pandemic, as a matter of fact. I packed up, moved to a different continent. More so because I was when I was in Vietnam last before I came to Rwanda, and they made it a little bit more challenging, I guess, for people who were traveling as tourists to be able to stay there long term. And so I was looking for a country that would give me long-term stability. I just kind of felt like I needed some sort of stability somewhere on the planet during the pandemic. And so Rwanda sort of made that possible for me because you can open up a business here. So that's what I'm doing here now.
Okay, I find it very interesting that you left during the pandemic. You know, we were scared to go out. I mean, really, literally go out the hallway, my apartment. But here's the question I really want to ask you. What propelled you to move out of America, you know, to Asia, Rwanda? Why did you decide to leave?
Well, this isn't the first time that I had left. I had left when I was in my early 20s to join the Peace Corps right after I finished college. And so I went to Togo in West Africa for 2 years. And then when I returned back to the States, it was shortly after 9/11. And I was in New Jersey at the time. There were no jobs in New Jersey, like at all. You know, there were no jobs. So I had to move. I packed up and I moved to Washington, D.C. to sort of start my life over again, you know, got a regular job. And it only took me a good month or so to figure out that the American lifestyle, this really was not for me. It was difficult to adjust to the temperature. You know, I had come back and it was like, I think it was like in October when I had moved to Washington, D.C. So it got dark at like 5 o'clock and it was getting cold. And I was like, I can't do this. And I had gotten a job. I was sitting in a cubicle after 2 years of living in a small village and being outside every day, you know, working with people. And I couldn't deal with, you know, just sitting inside and everything just seemed sort of stale. And it just didn't seem like the life that I had grown so used to. One of the things that I always say is that when I returned from Africa back to the United States, it was like I started to live a lifestyle where I couldn't hear God in my head anymore. And I missed that. And I said, I have to go. I wanted to go back to Africa or just someplace else. I knew that living and traveling in other places was what I really wanted to do. But of course, you know, life gets in the way. We get jobs, we go to school, we get involved in relationships. And so I didn't actually leave again until I was 40 years old. I was 40 years old in July of 2018 when I left.
Wow, that's an interesting comment that you made, that you couldn't see, you couldn't feel or hear God, or if I'm correct, by coming to the States. You know, I think, speaking of that, God and faith, I would think it would be dangerous for a single woman to be traveling around the country. I mean, were you scared at times? Did you have any type of obstacles, or, you know, just crime, that somebody wanted to commit a crime on you, confronted like that?
To be honest with you, I only go to countries where I feel safe. So thus far, during this stage of my travel life, in my 40s, I traveled to Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, and Myanmar, and of course, Rwanda now. All these countries I chose, they're all, you know, for the most part, generally safe for solo women travelers to go. Right before the pandemic, I wanted to actually go to Pakistan, which is not a place, you know, I love Pakistani culture, Pakistani food, but at the time, it just didn't feel like a good place as a solo female traveler to be traveling alone, where I didn't know anyone. And so I was looking at going through like a tour company that specialized in working with solo female travelers, which that felt comfortable to me. But of course, the pandemic happened and all of that went out the window. But to answer your question, I only go to some places where I feel comfortable. So I do a little bit of research just to sort of figure out, you know, usually on Facebook, there may be a group of women in that particular country or a particular city that you want to go to, and they'll sort of give you the heads up on what to look out for or whether or not a place is generally safe.
So what are the perceptions of Black people in your travel, particularly Black women?
I am met in Asia in particular. I get met with a lot of curiosity as to, you know, why you're there. I remember a few times in Vietnam, you know, when you walk into a hotel or your Airbnb and they have to take your passport, you know, just to be able to verify who you are. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people would say, "Oh, your passport is American, but you look African. Why?" You know, so sometimes you have to answer questions like that because they honestly, they don't meet a lot of Black travelers all the time. And so they don't really, you know, at least not Black Americans. They're more familiar with Black people who come from African countries. So you often have to explain, you know, the difference, I guess, but you know, in my mind, there is no difference. That we just grew up in different places. but yeah, you often have to explain that sort of a thing.
So when you talk to the indigenous people there, the natives, the citizens there, I'm really trying to figure out what their perception really is. Because when I talk to some people on the street that are not from America, they sometimes think that the movies they see, the videos they see are actually true. Have you ever come across anything like that? I mean, living in New York City, and I'm a freelancer myself. I have people have said to me when I was much younger, they don't do it now, but they said to me, "Well, you sure don't act like a Black woman." I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't act like a this and that, you know, I come back like that.
But I'll be honest with you, I've gotten that same sort of a response from African people as well.
Yeah,
it's not just
actually, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so it often, at least when I was in Asia, I didn't really get that from people who were very well educated and traveled. You know, those two often would go hand in hand. You know, they fully knew and understand that I was a Black American person and I was traveling and it was normal. And then you speak to other people, you know, who are in, you know, maybe smaller shops. They maybe didn't have access to all that great of an education, really haven't been anywhere most of their lives. And, you know, you just have to understand that oftentimes you're going to have to be the representative for your folks.
Oh, really?
And that's just part of the responsibility of traveling, which, you know, I've sort of learned to enjoy at this point.
Wow, that's very interesting. You kind of like forced to be a representative of Black women. Okay, I can get that. I could see that. I've experienced that also. What are the challenges you had to overcome being abroad?
Oh, I've been sick overseas several times. One of the things that I did while I was in Thailand was I did a detox process. And the detox process went totally well. But I have an issue with fibroids. And so my fibroids actually landed me in the ICU for a while. And so being in a space where you're in a foreign country trying to figure out how to work a foreign medical system, that was challenging. You know, just learning how to be able to take care of things on your own. It was an extreme case, but also just like in the day-to-day things, you know, sometimes You just want somebody to be able to sort of, just help you out with the day-to-day things of life. Like you carrying your groceries or basic things like that. Or, when your birthday comes around, you want to be able to celebrate, the way that you used to celebrate with your family and friends back at home. And, that may not always be available to you. But you do learn to create your own circles of friends in the places that you go to. It's a challenge, but at the same time, it sort of forces I'm an extreme introvert. And so that has sort of forced me to learn how to make friends, how to be more friendly with people, and how to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah, you don't seem introvert right now. I guess that's the benefit of traveling. You gotta really know all types of I guess languages or body signals to get what you want. Speaking of that, do you speak any other languages?
I speak some French, which has helped me out here in Rwanda. And even when I was in Vietnam, Vietnam still has some traces of French colonization. And so I had gone to one of the meditation retreats, a Buddhist meditation retreat in Vietnam. And of course, I don't speak a lick of Vietnamese at all. But there was a woman there who was from Cambodia, and she was a French teacher before she retired. And so at the end of the meditation retreat, she actually came up to me, spoke to me in French, and there was like a group of other Vietnamese women who were absolutely curious about who I was and who was this lone American stranger at this Buddhist meditation retreat, because there were no other foreigners at this particular one. And so speaking French I was able to sort of connect with these women at the end of the meditation retreat, which was really cool. So that was something that I didn't expect. I learned French when I was in high school, but in American school, you don't really learn it to speak it. But I learned a lot when I was in Togo in West Africa during the Peace Corps in my 20s. So it sort of stayed with me for a while.
Let's get back on your introvert. When you say you were an introvert, living in the States, you can pretty much survive as being an introvert. Living abroad, it appears you can't. I guess you can in a way, but what I'm picking up is that where you have been, they're more of a communal society. They're more village type of people. Is that true? Am I speaking that correctly? I'm saying.
Yes. Now, the places that I've lived in outside of Togo, in my current travel life, I've only lived in cities. However, a lot of the people that I have met, either they come from village or they're like one generation out of village, and so there is more of a communal mentality. Just because that's what people have to do to be able to get along in everyday life.
You're gonna make me cry for a moment, because I'm just feeling some stuff from you, and now you got me on God. Now, why couldn't you hear God? Yeah, while you were here.
I think I attribute it to several different things. I think I attribute it to the food that I was eating. When I lived in Togo, the first go around in my 20s, I remember I had lost a lot of weight, first of all. And then when I went back to the States, I put the pounds back on. And it was very stressful. Life was stressful. Of course, it was right after 9/11. So everything just sort of felt stressful, just trying to figure out how to, sort of make my own way in life, and the stress of figuring out, okay, well, now I'm back in the States. Now I got to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, and so that was pretty stressful for someone who was in their mid-20s. My mother was ill at the time. She had breast cancer, and she eventually passed away. so it was just a lot of things that were going on in my life at the same time. And I feel like life in Africa was very, very simple. That you didn't really need to make a lot. What I needed to do on a daily basis was sort of put out for me. The food was really simple and healthy, and I got plenty of exercise. And that's sort of difficult to do when you come back to the States and, rent is high.
That's stressful. It's like, where's God? But yeah, that's God forgive me. But yeah, we're running out of time. So how can people get in contact with you if they want to get your services as a corporate writer?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is just Halona Black, Halona Black, Black. You can hit me up there. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook using the same name. Or they can just send me an email if that is preferable at hello@digitalwell, WELL publisher.com.
Okay, so we're going to end this with you. God is fill in the blank.
Oh goodness, God is me. God is me. I have a connection to God that I didn't even know was there until I had moved to Thailand. I didn't really define that until I moved to Thailand. And now I know that can never be taken away.
Well, thank you. What a way to end that. Thank you, Halona Black. I just picked you up on Facebook because of your post. People are watching you, people. I'll let you know. This is Dietra Kelsey, and I thank you all for watching the virtual stage presentation of Sister Talk TV show. Thank you, Zakkee Starman, for putting this beautiful show together. And as always, I'm wishing you peace, love, and remember to stay in the light. That's it. My guest today is my cousin, Rashida Mullins, who's a Washington, D.C. native who has lived in southwestern Turkey for over 12 years, working as an English language instructor and coordinator at the Mughal Zakkee University School of Foreign Languages. Is that correct, Rashida?
Yeah, Mughal Zakkee Kochman University.
Okay, I'll let you say that. He also serves as the faculty advisor of the University African Students Association. She has coordinated the Afro-Turkish Shared Histories exhibition in collaboration with mixed American artist Michael Dixon, and worked for over a decade as a volunteer coordinator for Amnesty International USA. Rashida has a background in sociology and higher ed organizational development and special projects. She is also the mother of a Black American/Turkish middle schooler. Welcome to Sister Talk TV show, Rashida.
Thank you. Thank you, Dietra. I'm good. How are you?
Okay, I'm doing great. So I'm going to ask you what I ask everybody else. Now, I know this, but nobody else knows. I think I know. What propelled you to move to Turkey?
Yeah, well, I've always loved traveling. After I traveled and studied abroad in college in Spain, I got the travel bug, and I had always wanted to live somewhere else, travel somewhere else. But love actually brought me to Turkey, and so when my son's father said to come to Turkey for my summer break, I had never considered really visiting Turkey. I had nothing against it, but I also had no real motivation to visit. But because he had moved back here, he said, come here, come see Turkey. And I visited and loved it. Got my mom to visit, she loved it. And then I moved. I started a new life here.
Yeah.
Left everything in DC behind, but not fully.
You left everything and you decided just to stay here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
What are the challenges living in Turkey, a Black American living in Turkey, Black American woman that live in Turkey?
Yeah. I mean, we know that everywhere on the planet, it's not easy anywhere for a Black woman to kind of exist in her own skin and feel safe. But what felt different here was that even though I seemed different to a lot of people. A lot of people weren't used to seeing Black women, especially tall Black women walking around, smiling. Like we smile at everybody in DC when we walk by them on the streets. I'm smiling at people, they're confused. But and so I was a bit of an oddity for people for a while. In Istanbul, it's no big deal. People are used to foreigners. But in the city I'm in, it's a small town. I was, this interesting thing. That was the most difficult thing, and that's been the most difficult thing, attracting attention just because you're different, but not necessarily negative attention or positive attention. People are just interested, they're curious about you. Other than that, sometimes misconceptions about Americans and about Black Americans especially, because of stereotypes perpetuated by Hollywood. A lot of American cinema makes it abroad. A lot of American pop culture and music makes it abroad. So a lot of people have assumptions about what they can do and say. And while there can be discrimination against foreigners or against Black people by some people in Turkey, there's also there's not a heavy systemic racism against Black people in Turkey. Most people have watched Roots, and they feel an empathy towards Black Americans. They know Muhammad Ali, they know Malcolm X, and because of that, they're usually sympathetic and helpful. And so, as far as the difficulty, the most difficult part is kind of being far away from my people, being away from other Black Americans and family. Missing certain types of food, missing certain types of like nightclubs, and music, So I think that homesickness part is the most difficult. But when I compare it to the sometimes, physical fear of violence or of, meaningfully hateful language that's sometimes used against Black women in America, I don't have that. It's almost like taking a breath from being Black in America by being Black in Turkey. I end up with certain advantages actually because of my Americanness and because
No, well, I was going to say, you're an educator. How do they perceive you as being a Black educator? That's one question. The other question that I wanted to bring up is from the comment that you made, how they perceive Black Americans in general from the television, the movies, the reality shows. Do they think that's a documentary? And by you to is that real? By you coming to Turkey, so many questions now, but here's the question.
Yeah.
By you coming to Turkey, how were you welcome as a Black woman with rock coming off?
Yeah. Right. I mean, like I said, coming off the plane, no problem. Walking in different towns. Here, Turkey's a tourism-based country now. And so they welcome foreigners, and they've always been very open to foreigners. It's kind of in some of the old religions, like they have Sufism here, this branch of Islam that's very kind of spiritual, and they're all about welcoming. And it's also the Ottoman Empire was an empire that was dabbling in lots and lots of different cultures and countries around the region. So it's not unusual to have foreigners here. As a Black woman, people were curious. Men were extra curious. They're always very curious about foreign women, but not usually hatred. At worst, people from a small village or a place where they've never seen a Black person before except for a soccer game on TV. You have kids point, or women, sometimes point, which is rude for us, and I think it's rude here too. But for them, they're excited and they don't know how to behave. So we get lots of questions, and very kind of innocent questions, about where I'm from and where I'm really from. That question's always a bit annoying when you say you're American, and then they say no, but where are you really from? And I'm like, well, I'm from DC. What kind of question are you asking? No, where are your parents from? Okay, where are their parents from? Okay, wait. I'm talking about before them. Oh, like where are your people from? And so that push, and that's that depth of a question is something that my white counterparts don't get. If somebody says they're from, the States and they're white, they don't get the same probing as I get. And so, but again, right, your identity, you're aware of your identity, no matter what, right? Here in a way that I might not be aware. I wouldn't have to constantly be aware of it in DC, but at the same time, my identity isn't necessarily a threat to other people, in perception wise. They might have some ideas about things from like hip hop videos they saw in the States or films. Sometimes they think those things are real, but it sparks a chance for conversation, usually, when people assume that. Because I ask them in reverse, are the movies that we see from Turkey representative of real life, everyday life in Turkey? And then they understand, okay.
Okay, I get it. Okay. It's all, it's just a story, it's just entertainment and all.
Right.
What is it specifically that you like about Turkey that you're saying? Because you said before that you've been to Spain, you've been to a number of other places abroad, but it's something about Turkey that has made you stay. Why?
Yeah, well, I mean, after living in DC, I lived in Arizona for a long time. I got used to really nice climate, beautiful nature. And then visiting here, I had a similar reaction to the environment. It's gorgeous. And then moving around the country, traveling and visiting people and places, it's full of history. It goes back way farther, than, civilization on top of civilization has existed on this land. And you can see the ruins, there are also stories to tell here. I connected with the Afro-Turks, who are Turkish people of African descent, who most of them had come, their ancestors had come as slaves also during the Ottoman Empire. Some later as laborers or workers, some as artisans and stuff. And so they also have a communities here, and now an organization as well. And so I felt like with my experience and my background in cultural projects, I had a place where I could connect with them and helping to develop their organization, to get word out that they exist, because for them, it's about visibility. We have Black Americans have lots of visibility. We've been working on it for decades and decades or centuries now, right? But here, there wasn't that same awareness, and there's new awareness in modern Turkey about minority ethnic groups and the history here. And so I felt that, but also just feeling comfortable. There was an article I had read by another African American who was saying that who's Afro-Turkish, African American, like my son, actually, like Atlas. One of his parents is Black American, the other parent is Turkish. And he was saying, it's kind of like a little bit of a vacation from being Black in America when you're here. And James Baldwin is also famous for having spent quite a lot of time in Istanbul during the civil rights movement. And he just said he had to get away, and he came and visited some artist friends here and ended up staying and writing one of his most important books. And he said, he kind of felt free to be himself, without all of the huge cultural and social expectations that America has placed on us, through systemic racism, through violence, through some of these things that we've experienced in our history in America. There's not that history here, and people don't approach you from that angle, and so you get to be yourself in a lot of ways.
So, Rashida, do you miss Southeast DC?
Of course, I miss go-go music.
Go-go music, yeah. People don't understand that when I tell them that go-go music is so much of a part of our culture. They just don't get that,
Yeah. And so I share that with people here sometimes. I have lots of musician friends here, and so and then I just shared something on Facebook today because there's a soul musician, a Turkish soul musician. She's a white Turkish woman, but she grew up listening to like 90s soul music, 90s soul and R&B, and stuff from the 2000s. And it's the best I've heard here in Turkey by a Turkish singer. And there was go-go. There was a go-go rhythm in the back of the song. It must have been somebody on her production team. And so I hear it, I start telling everybody about it. Listen, look, that's go-go. I miss go-go. I miss food. Back home, I miss how green it is in DC. Like, I don't have any lost love for home. I still love it and I miss it, but I also don't feel like I'm missing out on things either, being here. It's another choice. It's another option. And being in Turkey, I've been traveling, right? I lived in Spain as a student for a while. And then, I've lived in Turkey since 2008. And I've found that Black women find each other and Black women support each other. We find each other. We find each other and we support each other. We need each other, right? For hair, for makeup, right? For everything. Just to have somebody, the look that we give each other when something ain't right. We can look at it.
We need that hair oil, yeah.
We need that hair oil. We need help. And so for instance, one of my we had an African student at the university in my earlier years in Turkey, and I had former students who had studied with me who knew her. And they found her and brought her to me. They're like, you have to meet Rashida, our teacher. And they introduced, she was from Kenya, and she became very close with the family, became like a kind of like a big sister for Atlas for a while. And so we had each other. And then I remember, my throat's dry, excuse me. I was walking down the street one day and a man, he was stopping me on the street. He was like, wait. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to go to work. Okay, what do you need? And he was like, my wife's Black. I'm like, okay. He was like, no, she's really alone, and I would love it if you could meet her. He was like, I'm not weird. I live in it was much smaller when I first moved here, but it's kind of like a small town, but beautiful. And, she and I ended up being friends, and she had 2 little mixed babies too, and she was from Senegal, and so she and I communicated in this kind of mixed English, Turkish kind of thing. I'm also supportive, but now it's even wider. We have a women of color group, and we have a WhatsApp group and a Facebook group. And so it's Black women, mostly African, Black Brits, Black Americans, also some Arab women, Asian women, right, in the group, but it's largely Black women in the group who've come to Turkey for different reasons. And we chat, we laugh, we share ideas about where to get things, recipes, talk about life. We meet up and have, get-togethers, and so you still feel that sisterhood. And it was the same when I was in Spain. There were Black British women who found me on the street. They were like, family, and then we were studying in this.
Like family, they run it, Black people, they run it. Hey, it seemed like you found a whole new world. You have a career there. You found love there. You had love before you got there, but it seems like you just have a whole new world, and you're just multi-international. I would say that. So I could tell that you are happy. But what makes you happy, Rashida?
In life?
Yeah, where you are, in life, what makes you happy?
In life, I mean, for me, discovering myself, discovering the world and discovering connections between things, right? Between ideas, between cultures, between people, being able to be as authentic as I can be in my own skin, wherever I am. And so the more I feel confident and capable and able to do that, the happier I am.
You'll be happy anywhere you are, right?
I could be happy anywhere I am, right? You make it, life is what you make it. And I think a lot of people get scared thinking that that there's nowhere else that will be as comfortable, even with its problems, than the US. They feel like nowhere is going to be as civilized or this or that. And I think that's a lot of the brainwashing that we've gotten throughout our lives in education, this American exceptionalism idea. And we are exceptional, and Black Americans are absolutely resilient and exceptional in so many ways. And we come from a great country too. But there's a huge world out there, and there's so much everywhere. There's so many beautiful things and so many opportunities and experiences. And there's not one way to live and be comfortable as a Black person. A friend here in Turkey just wrote a book about living abroad as a Black woman. Let me see, I can find the name. Excuse me, my friend Lara. I'm going to tell you right now. The Joy of Traveling and Teaching Abroad. Okay. A guidebook, and it's a guidebook to aid and inspire you on your adventure overseas. Okay. And she's a Black woman belly dancing and teaching.
So, how can people get in contact with you if they want you to speak about traveling as a Black woman? How can they get in contact with you? Just on social media?
They can get in contact with me on Instagram at Rashida Mullings, just like my name is spelled all together. Also, they can email me at rashida.mullings@gmail.com. And I'm happy to share any tips or ideas. That's how we survive out here. Sharing ideas, sharing tips.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rashida, for taking time. It's about 9:30 over there, and probably 10. It's about 3 o'clock.
Almost 10. Almost 10
o'clock. So it's almost 3 o'clock p.m. over here. So I want to say thank you for taking time out. I know you're a teacher. I know you're doing things, and thank you again. And
thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, you just watched my cousin Rashida Mullings talk about her experience as being a multi-international person. This is Dietra Kelsey, and as always, I am wishing you peace, love, and remember to stay in the light. And also, I want to thank all these people who has helped me, especially Zakkee Starman. We're on the virtual stage of, that's my beeper, virtual stage of Sister Talk TV show. Remember, stay in the light, y'all. One more kiss. That's it.
Sister Talk. Something on your mind anytime. I'm here to listen. Sister Talk. When you need someone who understands, I know what you're missing. Sister Talk. No matter what you're going through, don't worry, I ain't going nowhere. Sister Talk. If you ever feel alone, say the word, I'll be right there. Sister Talk. Sister.